I want ask him if he effective for. Hey there. Okay, I appreciate it. I'm just glad I got one of these.
This is not a conversation I care to ever rehab in my life.
Hey, why don't you take that seat and I'll just go in here?
Yeah, you I'm not going over there. That is um then you say always gotten over cleaned up. Any directions I'm just
Yeah, I already have to do my own.
Cure it right now. Okay, what are we doing?
Okay.
This is an action item.
Oh, okay. That's what you guys want to do? All you?
Is that okay?
Absolutely. No, I don't want it.
You didn't move?
I don't care.
You didn't move?
Uh,
We'll
so
do it like a regular mechanics piece. You just want to add it on.
yeah.
It's an agenda change.
So which one wants to make that motion?
Yes, sorry. I have a quick question for you.
You'll make that.
Yeah, I'll go.
You make the motion. Okay. Comment.
You got it? Everyone got it?
Comment. I'll put actually. What I'll do is I'll put it at after conflict. Well, let me have Daniel go first. I'll just throw him in here really quick, just let his.
Yeah, as long as
As comments.
before we get into our
Yeah.
discussion around it.
So what I'll do is I'll do conflict, comment. I'll bring him first, and then so he's take off for lunch.
Let me put that in the motion where to set that.
Okay.
Because we need to put that on the agenda before we start the agenda.
Okay.
Right?
Yep. Right after conflict of
So
declaration.
in the motion, I'll
Okay.
have it come back.
Perfect. Hey May.
Let me grab. You're who I needed. Paul, are you there?
I am.
Good. I had a screen pop up asking to admit you, and I wasn't sure I had the power, but apparently I do.
You wield the power.
Yeah, but don't quote me.
Will do.
It, just to let you know, to Paul's on, I got a screen that said admit him, and I said yes.
Oh, perfect. Yes.
So I didn't know I had that ability, but apparently I do.
I just want to make sure last time he appeared, we looked up his nose the whole time. So,
Admit him is okay, but usually people won't admit they know me.
About this is because we have the Microsoft stuff. It gets all sort of funky. I'm just gonna lie about this. You were born in 19. They don't deserve to have the true information.
Oh, hi. How are you doing?
No.
Good to see you.
It's your Disney email. This is the key bit.
Come on, because you're the president, right?
Yeah. Okay.
you didn't say anything. Yeah, it was say hi.
All right. And then
Oh, that she was live on the world.
do you like the focus versus other view? Because we can get rid of that.
Oh, that's all right.
Remind me how to correctly pronounce your last name. Mercado. It's Don or Dan? Daniel. Yes, it is. See, I'm getting to be of a certain age. I feel the need to double check even when I know I'm right.
It just wants a phone number. It can receive text on.
That was a lot. I want to clean up a little bit more. Not appreciably. But you've got the gavel, so.
I know, but as I saw people here, so I was like, oh, perfect. Hey T, did you get Ryan on there? Or?
Let's go ahead and.
I emailed him the link.
I'm going to move that chair out of the door.
Okay.
So we get the street noise out of the way.
Perfect.
I mean, the whole idea was we get rid of
Break
that
it?
and we cut down.
No, I was
going to share the because we're spending around
Oh, you're.
or so per year, and now we're only spending like $600. It's insane.
If it was a possibility, that was another approach.
It's a possibility. Okay. See if that works for you. Hopefully it does. But that's the fastest thing.
Ready?
I'm ready when you are.
Okay, let's rock and roll. All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Tiffany, please take the roll.
Councilman Hardy. Councilman Ward.
Present.
Councilman McCarthy.
Present.
Councilman Sanders.
Present.
Mayor Sykes.
Present, let the record reflect that we do have a quorum for Friday, April 3rd, 2026, for a special city council meeting workshop. We're gonna,
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Sanders?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move a change to the agenda. We've been made aware of a staff member who is, in respect of their time, we want to add them for their presentation at the start of this agenda, and then have a public comment period added to the agenda immediately after.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. Councilman Harjo?
Aye.
Councilwoman Workla?
Aye.
Councilman McCarthy?
Aye.
Councilman Sanders?
Aye.
All right. I'm gonna run down to conflict of interest really quick. Has any council member received information pertaining to or otherwise had any contact with otherwise had any contact with any person regarding any items on this city council agenda? If so, please set forth nature of contact.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Sanders.
I have had contacts from Rebecca McGarvey and from Chan Earhart.
Okay.
Mayor.
Councilwoman Workla?
From Becky Garvey as well.
Mayor,
Councilman Harjo?
I've had contact from Becky Garvey and Terry Manduca.
Councilman McCarthy. Okay. All right. We're going to run down to the comment section. I'm going to let Daniel Mercado come on down and kind of just give a brief, whatever you want to talk about our meeting with
Sure. Yeah.
and your thought processes.
Okay. So, I'm not sure if everybody knows, but I think everybody knows. So on Wednesday, the mayor, Councilman Sanders, Tiffany, and myself went out to Meridian to Lakeview Golf Course. We met with their golf pro and their Parks and Rec superintendent. The purpose was because they're a municipal course with a golf pro, so we kind of wanted to learn how they manage that, how they work the pro shop side and everything, being a city owned course. So the mayor just asked me to give my thoughts, being that I'm not a golfer. I play once a year. I take my son out, who's become a pretty avid golfer the past few years, so I don't necessarily have a huge stake in it, but just wanted to give you all my thoughts. One of my main concerns before we met with Ryan was, how do we have a pro that's also a city employee? How do we make that work? Ryan let us know, like roughly how much he makes annually. The lesson side, he gets 80%. So they have an hourly fee for their lessons. He gets 80%. 20% goes back to the city for the lessons. My concern was, how do you work that with like Percy? That was my main concern, and tax wise, they've done it. They figured it out. So I know we could. The golf on the pro side, the city owns the pro shop. They stock it. They keep the inventory. They collect the revenue. I think he said their annual for the shop to stock it was $250K. Is that right? Does that sound right?
Yeah.
250, and then the revenue was 350. So, as an outsider to me, it makes sense to have. I like that the city's able to has that control, right? They have control over the inventory stuff. They know what's coming in, what's going out. They get the revenue for that. The city is an employee. They can control the lessons portions. They get money from that. And then it's all on the other hand, it's also legit with Percy. So to me, it seems like the best of both worlds because, it gives the avid, the golfers that are out there all the time and they want that pro, they want that, set that type of setup. It gives them that, but it also the city has control over the money portion. So to me, it seems like it's the best of both worlds. It works out money wise for them. So, and it was, like I said, I'm not a golfer, but it was really easy for me to understand their, the business model, if that makes sense.
Mayor.
Daniel?
Mayor.
Councilman Harjo?
Daniel, I know you got to get going. Can I
Oh, you're fine. Yeah.
snag you with a couple
No, go
quick
ahead.
questions? You mentioned that the pro was a city employee. Did they give you any idea what their base was?
He didn't give us his. We did ask like what are we looking at if we were to post for a golf pro tomorrow, like what could we
What's the range?
reasonably expect?
Sure.
He said between 70 and 80 annually, and then like I said, they get that percentage of lessons.
Okay. And in terms of the pro shop, can you give us an idea of what all they were stocking in the pro shop? Was it pretty
It was
similar?
pretty intense. Like
It was everything like you'd see at ours, but in a bigger scale.
Hmm.
And we got to remember, we're comparing apples to oranges, and the fact
Sure,
that
in
our
the-
pro shop is a lot smaller compared to that one.
Mhm.
But it just kind of gave us an insight of what is a municipal golf course, that kind of scope.
Yeah.
And I think it was 65 to 80 was the wasn't it? Or was it the 70 to 80?
I thought on the salary he said 70 to 80, but
Yeah.
You could be, yeah.
Sure.
But and then he, another thing that he mentioned was that golf pros that are going to apply to that being a city employee and having those benefits, that's an appeal to them.
Yeah. Did they mention any head count of overall staffing? Was that?
Yes. So there's the one pro. He had two assistants. One was so he's a class A. The assistant was a class B, and then they had another guy that
Was just
he had just kind of entered that program. I don't recall what he called him.
It was the associate level.
So,
Okay.
okay.
So he had the two assistants inside the clubhouse. I think he said they had 4 to 6.
says I wrote down 4 full-time seasonal employments and 6 to 8 seasonal employments that shuffled carts and mostly did closing shift kind of work.
And one
Mr.
thing
Mayor-
to mention, oh, I'm sorry, Councilman.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Harjo, for context, they have over 50 carts they operate. They're all electric. And the seasonal staff come in when they get their high use times.
Mhm.
And we're talking a course that last year booked over 51,000 rounds.
Right. And that's,
So just context. So really quick,
Yeah, it
council, I
was-
want to suspend Robert's Rules of Order so you guys can just fire away.
oh, thank you.
Yeah, I was just
Thank
going to
you.
mention the rounds count. It was 51 compared to what was, I think ours was 20.
17 last year. Yeah.
So
20.
it's considerably more people running through there, but
Sure.
that was the staff count.
Awesome. Thank you.
What else you got? Anything else, D? Daniel?
Sir.
When we were over there meeting, I know you had asked them about getting a copy of that job description. Have you received that from them yet?
He did email it over, yeah.
So you're taking a look at that now to see exactly how that was structured.
Yes.
Thank you.
And then they do the same, well, they do 2% of the gross revenue of their restaurant, is how they structured theirs. They just wanted to be successful. That was the only difference, I think, between theirs and ours. We do a set fee, right? What else was there?
I do want to mention, since we're talking about the merchandising piece as well, he did mention it was within his scope of authority to manage how that inventory came in and went out and at what prices they were sold at. He had his markup, and if stuff didn't move, he had the ability to adjust that price down so long as he was able to get zero net out of the merchandise. So the way they're running it there, he said his average margin at the end of the year averaged about 48%. But that would included his ability to approach that marketing in a way where he ensured there was no cost out of the bottom line. He's been in that position now for multiple years, 6, 8 years at least, if not more. I can't remember how many years he was on.
I think he said he was there at 8 years
8 years.
at Lakeview. And one of the things that really struck me is how much he stressed growing the game. He emphasized how they go to the elementary schools even, they had kids over there for a gym class or something, they would go out there and do stuff. ESU,
Bishop Kelly.
Bishop Kelly, yeah, the high
Gibson Sim.
schools.
He was teaching classes for CWI, and they also had a golf class for WI doing the phys ed portion of it. I think BSU as well, their basic phys ed coursework. But there was a huge emphasis, you're right, on building the game. That was the bedrock on what most everything else sprung off of.
Right. So if you can get a kid that's 12, 13, 14 and get them really cultivate that love for the sport, you've got a customer for the next 60 years. So
You guys got anything else for Daniel? Like I said, I know you got to go, my friend.
no,
I appreciate
no,
it.
I'm here as long as you guys need me.
Got anything else, guys?
No, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Okay, would anybody like to get up and speak? Go on down, sir.
My name's Chris Eastman. I'm a graduate of Mountain Home in 1980. I've been a golf professional for over 40 years of my life. I'm a lifetime PGA member. Some of you probably had my father as a principal, or my mother as a teacher. Following you guys on YouTube lately. Someone has recommended me to come up here and speak to you. Quite the knowledge of Mountain Home and quite the knowledge of the golf business. So I understand you're probably looking for a golf professional. That's why I'm handing you directly my resume. I've won many awards for running top-notch facilities all over the United States. Is on my resume.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Sanders.
I'm feeling a little uncomfortable, like this is running toward a personnel issue. He's here to submit his application for a future position. I'm not sure that's within the scope of our.
Right. Mr. Easton,
Eastman
Eastland.
and
Eastman.
I'm here to help you out in whatever way I can.
Copy that.
Answer any questions on how to make this a facility.
Okay, this is like a comment period, like, hey, you normally just get up there and say what your comments are, and we sit here, we like, thank you, and,
I'm here to help you.
okay.
My phone number's on there. Feel free to call me. That's the whole point of making my presence known.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Eastman. Anybody else? Come on, Ms. Garvey.
I I'll paraphrase this. This is what I sent to the council the other day. It was a little bit of a rant, so like I said, I'll paraphrase it. A couple key points that I just want people, and from my perspective as a taxpayer here in Mountain Home. So the tracking of the inventory and promoting the sales of products, etc. The city hasn't really, pardon me, the city hasn't really gone out and trained the current golf staff, kind of left him to his own devices. So I asked the city to put something in line to make sure that the staff will be trained properly. A city-run pro shop, I disagree with that 100%. The city will need to be very careful in discounting products and competing to make a profit. And this is my big push too. As a taxpayer, I don't want my tax dollars to sit in a golf pro shop waiting for inventory to be sold when my money can and should be going to infrastructure improvements, streets, sewer, and some of those other bigger issues that we've had here in the city. Another point that I would like to bring up is that people supported TJ because it was TJ. I believe that the support will not be as great. It may be over the years once this person earns their name and their respect. But to be quite frank, the city has really grumpied the golf community. And so you can't count on that support. It's just as easy to go to Boise and have sale prices and a better offering. And this is not at all, I'm only going to mention your name just because you prepared these documents. The numbers that Tiffany presented, they looked great, and quite frankly, they are great, but I think it's really important that the CIP last year was bare minimum. There was nothing in it. So we didn't have to transfer that money. We didn't have to transfer a lot of money. And then if you look over the last couple years of CIPs, we've had large transfers. We've had large transfers for almost 10 years. That's because that's how much it costs to run the golf course. Historically, look at how much it costs to run the golf course. I may be proven wrong someday, and quite frankly, I hope so for the betterment of our golf course. But I don't see that it's going to be cheaper to have a city pro, but it will be a bigger headache for who? The city, the staff. Who's it going to be? Whose headache is that going to be on? The numbers have been the same for about 25 years. I don't know if you guys, maybe the newer council wouldn't recall, but I presented a document that was given to me from 92-ish, and it cost $1.2 million to run the golf course. That's what it costs today. Numbers haven't changed. So, but what the key difference is if you look at the revenue, that did change. That changed because we had an excellent pro who was incentivized, and he took care of the golf course, and he was a non-city pro. He specifically made a change for the golf course that the golf course hasn't changed in a long time. Now TJ's obviously gone. Okay, don't want to belabor that issue. The point I'm trying to hone in on is that he or she, whomever this person may be, their hustle can make a difference, which is increased revenue and play. Revenue and play have gone down for the last 3 years. I made just a little point. Again, you guys all received this, but it's just important to me. The greens fees went up because the fees increased, not because play increased. Play went down. The other thing that I would like to point out, this year was an anomaly with our weather. We haven't had weather like this. I golfed in December. And so, without a fantastic winter and people being able to be out there, we wouldn't probably be where we are today with our numbers. The last comment that I had in just listening to the last couple meetings, there were several comments that were made that they hope that the city's numbers, I'm assuming out of Zen, are accurate. Well, gosh darn, that's your guys' equipment and your guys' system put in place. So I sure hope your numbers are accurate. And if they're not accurate, then I would rapidly get rid of that and figure out a new system to get accurate play. And my last comment, good luck making Desert Canyon great again. Thanks, guys.
All right, anyone else? All right, we're gonna run down to agenda item deliberation decision regarding golf course staffing structure and operational budget. Council. Ryan. Okay. So I'll start out. I don't. What I would like to see if I were council for a day is allow me to go out for a pro, or allow the city, not me, sorry, city go out for a pro. And said pro, he or she, when they get here, come back to the body to ask for what they think that needs to be into that run, that golf pro shop, if that's the direction. I think right now, with TJ leaving, we don't have that continuity out there, and I think on behalf of me, I guess, I am a golfer. I would like to see a pro out there. So that's just my 2 cents.
Mayor, did you say a city employee pro or just
Yes.
a pro? A
City employee pro. We talked to Ryan, and he said that was kind of what they were. That's an archaic, like a, how do I say this? He said the way that the modeling was is kind of an old school way of, they used to do it that way, but most municipal courses now are going to an employee pro. The pro likes, and this is his words, not mine, likes the benefits that the city gives. You know, the Percy, the eyes, the teeth, the healthcare, all that kind of stuff, and factoring that kind of I guess employee pro or contract pro or whatnot. But he said that's what he saw back in the day. And I guess am I far off of what his statement was, Councilman Sanders? Of the you know what I mean? Of the they're going more to employee pros.
Yeah, his comment essentially was that for the folks he's seeing come out of the PGA schooling system now, the pros that are coming out, the ones that are out there, they're starting to look more for how they take care, with insurance costs being what they are and other issues, that city benefits, retirement benefits, healthcare benefits, vacation guarantees in terms of hours and days, that those were becoming very attractive for pros as well. So there is, I don't know what the ratio is between those that have gone toward civil employment as opposed to contract. I would imagine it's still heavily contract out there in the world right now. But the current trend from his perspective was that the number of folks who enjoyed being city employees was going up.
What was your takeaway from that meeting?
The biggest capture I got that I took away on the pro side was the growing of the game, and we saw that. We saw that with TJ. We saw he grew the game here in Mountain Home, and that's what we need. You need rounds sold, and you have to balance between user fee base and growing the game. And growing the game means youth of our community. That means adults that don't play, like Daniel, myself, those kind of things. So that's, and they have to want to have the ambition to go and seek that. As an employer, as a contractor, you have to have ambition.
Mr. Mayor.
No, this is open, remember?
Yeah, I'm going to double up on that. That is exactly when we asked him for recommendations of how to move forward. First thing out of his mouth was, you've got to grow. You've got to get the number of rounds up. You've got to grow the game. You've got to get your number of rounds played higher. That's the base. That's the base you work everything else off of. And then growing the game, reaching out, bringing in new players, bringing in youngsters, reaching out to the community. Because oftentimes he talked about the secondary effect. You may have a couple of folks that come out for a phys ed class, never been introduced to golf before, come out, get introduced. Next thing you know, they may not be out playing, but you see 3 or 4 of them out hitting golf balls on the driving range or something fun to do. They may only do it a couple of times a year, but when it got to the bottom line, those numbers were still there. So growing the game was the first step, he said, for a course like us where we're at. If we can't get the number of rounds played and the corresponding revenues from that up, there's not going to be a lot of wiggle room to do a whole lot of the other. That was one of the things that really stood out to me. And I've looked at the numbers that have been presented before in terms of rounds played, and I tend to agree, even with the current pricing structure. We could come closer to breaking even if we could do only 10% more in terms of playerships and rounds played. We're right at 2,000 now. If you run straight numbers and don't look too deep into them, but look at them at a high level, about 22,000 to 22,500 rounds played on that course right now, we would be closer to being within our budget than we've ever been in the last 12 years. But we're not there yet. We have not grown it. So whoever we bring in, however they're paid, however their service to us is provided, we need to have someone who's enthusiastic about and understands that we're dealing with the citizens, and we got to get in tune with them and have them feel comfortable and encouraged to come out and can play and to play more often.
I think, Council, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think from the previous meetings that we've had on this, I think, come to consensus that we need a pro. We just now need to figure out which direction are we going. Are we going to go with a city employee pro, or are we going to go with a contracted pro? I think that's what the public is waiting for us to make our minds on, and what we need to make our minds on, and what route to go so we can get that bid out there sooner than later, right? So that's why I think we're here today, is not to sell the idea of a pro. I believe we all, correct me wrong if I'm misspeaking here, but we all want a pro. We just got to figure out which direction, if we're going to do the city employee or if we're going to do the contracted.
I think, like I said, at the last juncture that we had this discussion, the context of what decision we make in hiring or contracting with a pro is one leading facet of it, but both have their implications financially behind that. It's been mentioned that the possibility of buying TJ's remaining stock at maybe $50,000, there's that implied expense right out of the gate to support a city-run pro shop. Those again are, I have a fundamental problem with the city of Mountain Home getting into niche retail. I think that's not our business to have. Whereas a contracted pro, that can go along with that. Now there is certainly margin to be had, right? In the experience of the course that you guys went to go visit at Lakeview, the average being 48%. But when you look through what percentages are from 2022 at our own course that we do have reporting on, there are very slim margins on larger equipment and much larger margins on things like golf balls and tees and gloves. There's this concept rolling around in my head that there's probably a middle ground somewhere that we can, if we go that route of adopting a pro shop, is it the city of Mountain Home's business to spend residential taxpayer dollar to buy golf clubs in the hope that they sell sometime in the next 18 to 24 months? At what point the authorization to bring down to a 0% margin exists with a golf pro is one thing, but there's also a decision to be made behind that, because it's not a 0% cost to deliver that still. The cost to acquire is one thing, the cost in headcount for that sale is another. And so to sell at a 0% net is still losing money, because you're still paying for the operation of the people to attend to that pro shop space. I think fundamentally, I look at the contract we have with the restaurateur, where we, by contract, authorize them to be in that space, and we seek revenue back at the rate of $1,600 a month. Under the current conditions at the golf course, in the previous golf and the outgoing Golf Pro, we were at no expense other than the air and floor space that they took up, and it was their hustle to protect in the exclusivity of lessons and merchandise and access to the training center. Like I said, I think there's a middle ground to be had somewhere. I've just not heard the attractive thing that finds a middle ground yet.
Okay, if I might jump in on this now. So there's a discussion, it seems to be that there's a push for a city pro, and I agree with Councilwoman Workala that I think this body is very much in the mind that we need a golf pro. However, it's which way are we going? And I had taken out the initiative to put out a survey to the public and to the golf community, because again, these are our users. They're the ones that are using the golf course. They're going to be paying for it. So to me, it's the customers. We should be talking to them and figuring out what their desire is to see what's going on with the golf course. So I would like to share a little bit, and I will share this, Tiffany. So you all got the spreadsheet. I know it's a really kind of cattywampus, but
Yeah, the spreadsheet's not very pretty, so.
not sure how to share this, but this is the Google form, the layout. So let me join real quick. Oops. See if it goes.
It's an Excel spreadsheet.
That's what it was said, but this is a Google Forms does an actual breakdown.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to share this real quick. It's not.
Got it.
Trying. Apologies. It says I'm sharing. Do I need to flip me?
Did you do the toggle on your screen?
It says I'm sharing. And I've got the. Yeah, I'm on the Google Forms. It's the same way I've always done it. Maybe there's a trick to it.
Every time there's a new way, it's a training opportunity.
No, I'm sorry. So, the Desert Canyon. Oh, okay.
You could turn that other one off because
Awesome. Okay. Thank you, Tiff.
Yeah, no worries.
I don't remember doing it that way, so there must be a new one every time.
Seems to.
Okay. So as I said, I had sent out a survey to the community, and thank you for everyone that took the time to fill this out. I won't try and take up all of our time, but essentially we had 176 responses to this survey. Started out with, do you live in Mountain Home city limits? We had almost 70% said yes, 30% no, outside. Goes into how much do you play at the golf course, which again, over 50% of the respondents were weekly or more. Talks about how many golf rounds you play annually, breaks it down. Do you primary play at Desert Canyon or other courses? So mostly Desert Canyon was overwhelmingly almost by 70%. mix of course 24. And then it goes into overall, how satisfied are you with the Desert Canyon Golf Course? It was a bit split. So we had, 15% very dissatisfied, 32% somewhat dissatisfied, 11.8% neutral, 31.2% somewhat satisfied, and then 9.4 for very satisfied.
So they're grumpy.
What would you most improve about your experience? There's a lot of things in here, but I'll just point out the major is course conditions, pricing, and staff and customer service.
Councilman McCarthy, not to interrupt you, and I apologize.
No, please.
Was there anything that prevented people from taking this survey more than once?
On this, because of the anonymity, no, there was, I believe, no.
No, there
Thank you.
wasn't.
So how would you rate the following? Talks about the different course conditions, customer service, pricing value, facilities, and they all range from good to fair. So it goes into what's the most important to you, from affordable rates to high quality course conditions, financial self-sufficiency, local control by city, public access, and economic benefit to the community. You can see a lot of it was about the affordable rates and the high quality conditions. How important is the golf course operates without requiring taxpayer subsidy? So 35.9% was neutral. And then we have varying percentages from very important all the way down to not important at all. The big question that I had on this one was, which model do you prefer for operational? We had fully city operated to hybrid model to fully contracted and then to unsure. 61.2% said the hybrid model, which we previously had, 31.2% fully contracted and fully operated by the city. We had 4.7, and then unsure was 5.
How did you define the hybrid model when they were taking the survey? Did they know what they were answering there?
So there is actually a breakdown on the different models, city operated and hybrid. It should show. So the question. City operated, fully managed and staffed by the city. Hybrid model, city owns and maintains the course, but contracts out operational, pro shop, food service management. And then fully contracted, a private company manages both operation and maintenance under city oversight. So yeah, more than support, 61% for a hybrid model. Talks about how strongly you feel about your choice, very strongly. And then there's many responses there that can take time to go through, but again, it comes back to what's your concerns about contracting operation cost, increased cost fees, reduced public access, declining course quality, loss of local control, and then 44 respondents had no concerns on it. What benefits, if any, do you see in contracting operations? Tops were professional expertise, innovation, new services, increased efficiency, down to reduced cost to taxpayers. And just a simple, if contracting operations result in a better course, would you do higher fees, support it? Depends on the cost. And it seemed like that was kind of a main thing with some of these questions when it comes to taxpayer support, to higher fees in the golf course. I thought this question was a bit interesting. What level of annual taxpayer support would you consider acceptable? Range from none, minimum for under 100,000, moderate 100 to 300, significant over 300,000 to unsure, and the majority were unsure. So I did think that was kind of an interesting result on that. Talks about user higher fees, if you would support higher user fees if there was improved course conditions and amenities. Would you support limited taxpayer funding to maintain affordability and community access? Again, over majority was for it. Changes are made. What is the most important to preserve? Affordable access, course quality, open public access were those top choices. This talks about what's the maximum you would typically be willing to pay for 18 holes at Desert Canyon, just the green fees. 45% was for $30 to $39. Between $40 and $59 was at 35%. Under $30 was 13.5%, and then above $60 was 5.9. Also talks about how important Desert Canyon is to the mountain home, which very important over the majority. Then there's some open feedback on that, which I've shared with you all the spreadsheets, and I can make these there. But to me, I wanted a tool to reach out to the public, especially with our golf users and also our non-users, to see what the feeling of Desert Canyon and what direction we're going to be going to. And to me, I'm seeing a lot of requests for hybrid and contracting out. And so while I understand that trips are being made to talk to public municipal golf courses that we have a golf pro, or that have a golf pro that's a city employee, I guess I'm curious is there hasn't been any discussion about why we should stay with or continue with a hybrid model, or even go fully contracted out for operations and maintenance. I've done my own research with City of Twin Falls. They just completed their own RFP for city operations and maintenance with their municipal golf course. And they have green fees that are actually lower than ours. And they actually had set up, and I thought was very clever, or with much foresight, that the contractor that was awarded, they have to go in front of the golf advisory committee that they have there and to present to them any green fee increases. And that golf advisory committee makes recommendation, which then goes in front of the city council. So I know that there were responses in this survey that I had sent out of, if we go contracting, that the concern of affordability. And I think looking at City of Twin Falls, looking at City of Lewiston, which they also had their own pieces in there to help with the pricing of water. I know that that was also something that's brought up fully contracted, the concern of how would a contractor be able to afford the water rates in that. To me, there's all of these examples that we can use to help figure out a contract that addresses these concerns that we're seeing, or at least in this survey and that. So while I understand there's a push for city employee, I have very much high concerns when there's discussions of using taxpayer money for merchandise. I don't think city government should be competing in the private business. Things of that nature make me kind of say that I would really hope that we're not just focusing on one aspect, where we're looking at this as a complete, entire open view. Because if you talk to the golfing community, I think that there's plenty of history there to see that we've already been down the city operated side, and there's a lot of mixed feelings with that. So I struggle with the city operated aspect. I would really like to explore the hybrid or contracting, any of those things, just to put it out in an RFP, just to see what we can see, what the I guess the interest is for Desert Canyon.
Are we still open? Yeah. Mr. Mayor?
Absolutely, yep.
Okay. When I look back on the day I got here and started playing golf in Mountain Home, we've had a hybrid model. That hybrid model has failed to produce results for the last 23 years. We're still funneling money into the golf course every year. The last contract we had in started to reverse that trend. So when I go back and look at all the times we've not been able to get, I have to look at the whole thing. And this may sound a bit like a poison pill, I think we do ourselves a disservice if we don't take the common factor that shows up since 1985 around the golf course when we're talking about a hybrid model, and that is the management, the oversight has been a constant. So if we're not looking also at our ability as a body, our administration, to be able to successfully get a contractor in place and keep it going for an extended period long enough to try to climb out of the hole we all perceive we're in, then I have to say, are we going to go back and do the same thing we've done over and over again, just waiting for the next time we have to come back and do it over and over again? So part of my push around this and the notion of having a city employee and city run is probably the last place we can go as a group where we can say we're going to maintain control over the entire operation, over the process. And so any failures that come up as a result can only be pointed back at us. And we put ourselves on a limited time basis. I would recommend 2 years. And if we can't see the trend develop in that amount of time, then we probably need to consider having a professional third body come in and take the whole thing over, because we will have demonstrated, once again, our ability to do it has not produced the results we're looking for. And to the notion of the pro shop, I would argue that if city government, if any government is going to be providing merchandising, it better be in a niche market. There is no comparable to a golf pro shop in Mountain Home. You got to go 10.5 miles to find the nearest one. Yes, there are bigger markets in Boise. Yep, you can go do that. But most of the folks that are playing here are local and they want to do their business here. They don't want a gift card to Golf Galaxy to go into Boise and spend the gas money to and from to save 5% on a dozen golf balls. So how we go about doing that, if you put a city employee pro in place, or even a contract pro, they're coming in, you're going to be asking that pro to put merchandise in that market. And since the PGA trains on merchandising and selling and marketing, he's going to start out with the bare minimums in there until he can build his number of rounds played and number of tournaments played up, where those revenues are available for you to invest even more. So no matter how you want to approach it down the stream, if we were to hire this person as a city employee, we'd be doing exactly the same thing. They would be coming in with the bare minimums in a pro shop until that turns around. And then there would be a chance to invest some more. You do it as a private contractor, they're going to do the same thing. So the level of service you're providing is going to be affected regardless, and this will be the third year in a row we're going to send a ripple down the pond about the quality of services on the golf course. So part of my push behind this, if there's ever a push involved, was I wanted to be able to stake a clear line in the sand that says, city will do its best to get it right, or we recognize we can't, and we get in a professional company that can.
Councilman Sanders, the 2-year remark and meeting a trend, you know, the grand scheme of things, 2 years in comparative to 23 for a total of 25, even if you did see a spike, it's not necessarily a trend, right? That could be an anomaly. We could have another very poor year for the farmers and have an awesome extended golf season like we do now that could entirely throw the concept of that out the window, where you can have 11 out of 12 months ability to golf. Or you could have another El Nino year and you might get 6 or 7 months of golf. I definitely hear where you're coming from. I mean, the concept of control is one thing, but again, the niche market, like I say this tongue in cheek and not in any level of seriousness, but like we have other city facilities that do things and we're not in the niche retail market for them. And I threw it out jokingly last time, like, are you going to stock G60 race car tires and drawn over mandrel tubing for the race car folks? Are you going to create a scuba shop for people that want to do scuba lessons at the city pool? this is one of those, yes, there's a certain level of understanding and of a service level that exists at the golf course. And in more recent and memorable times, a golf pro handled those services and functions at the golf course, including the pro shop, at no financial liability and cost to the taxpayer. Especially this last year, there was zero expense going to maintaining a pro shop or providing lessons. Those came at the hustle of a golf pro by contract. And it is much the anomaly of 1 year of rounds down. There were a half a dozen different factors or more that could contribute to that 1 year. But revenue stayed flat over the last 3 years in general terms. So the value per round is greater. The expense went up significantly over the last 3 years. So in the general balance of zooming way out, you have a revenue problem and an expense problem. Expense needs to come down. Revenue needs to come up. We're pacing 15 to 25% behind comparable courses in the valley in greens fees alone. We incur a lot of cost without reasonably offsetting those costs with revenue. And that's a hard thing to predict, that we're going to be successful in a retail market based on one particular action item of, are we going to hire a golf pro or not? There's a lot of implication behind this one decision, and that could mean everything from affecting future CIPs. But again, that's one decision that has a lot of implication and a lot of uncertainty behind it, but we're not actually doing the things that we could have an effect on, like reasonable rate increases, looking at reducing expenditure, protecting our own investments in the golf carts that we currently lease. There are golf carts right now with bent tie rods or broken tie rod ends that come at the abuse of maybe not necessarily golfers from our community, but perhaps traveling individuals. We have no policy to protect ourselves against those things. So that comes at the cost of the city and then trickles back down to the taxpayer, because there is a transfer from the general fund to the golf course. So we have a lot of moving parts that we could be adjusting without making major overhaul right now, that we could have positive effect over this season. And again, that's that middle ground of, I think there are less drastic measures we can make in the very short term that will gain us ground in closing the gap of what revenue over expense really is.
Councilman Harjo, I appreciate those comments. When it comes to comparability, we've had this sidebar before. So by example, I would suggest we have, in many ways, or let me be specific, Lakeview, lovely little course in Meridian. City of Meridian's population, as reported on Idaho data, is 139,000 folks. Their median income is $103,307. City of Mountain Homes population is 17,577, has a median family income of $63,125. Even when I take the green fees being charged by Lakeview, I divide them into the population, and I do the same thing for our green fees, divide them into the population, we are actually paying more per capita within our citizenry. Please let me finish. So I would say that our green fees are pretty much within a relative target. But our closest competition, I have always argued, is 10.5 miles to our south. Their population is 3,309. Their median income is $74,196. When we start comparing comparables, we can't even compete with the base course that's available to the public if they want to get a gunfighter pass, and certainly attractive to our citizenry where 1 in 6 have some DoD affiliation and can get on the base anyway. And we're not able to compete with them. So before we start looking at comparables, finding the right ones to make it a true matchup is going to be the first challenge.
Can I ask you one question? That implies that all 17,577 residents of the city of Mountain Home golf, and implies that every one of the 150,000 plus Meridian citizens golf, and that's false equivalency. This is the one thing that I've been asking for in reporting since I got on this council was how many, it is absolutely possible to capture this data, how many individual golf users there are in the city of Mountain Home. We've never captured it, and it is absolutely relevant to the conversation because that is the actual dilution rate. It absolutely is.
I would say only as a caveat because almost, at least if we take the averages, at least 1 in 6 of those that play at Mountain Home also play out there.
And that is their individual choice in commerce. But the concentration of, as you've presented it, the concentration of cost per capita is not equivalent when the vast majority of the per cap do not golf. And this is that sentiment of why should we be using residential taxpayer dollar to fund niche retail and hobby of what could amount to several hundred of our 17,500. That's the cold hard fact of that. This is asking us to continue spending and potentially expend more money to support a very narrow margin of our population in a recreation front. And this is the same conversation that we will have in a couple short months when we start working on the budget, which 2 of us sitting up here have had to sit through before and get an understanding of the global view of the city of Mountain Home. We're making decision today off cycle about headcount, expenditure, when in a couple short months we're going to be rehashing what the 26-27 budget will look like. I don't see the urgency today to answer these questions, and especially to off cycle jump into decisions about expenditure at the scale that we're potentially looking at.
My comment back is that I do think those numbers are relevant. When you take into consideration when green fees are paid, they are going back into the operation, and in fact, you could consider them a bit of a tax rebate, where city taxpayers are throwing more money toward the bottom line by paying those green fees. By doing that, then when I look at the total population and see how much of the population's money is coming back through green fees, then we are comparable. We're actually higher than another group looked at it that way. In terms of revenues coming back in, divided amongst the community, just as everybody in the community's tax dollars go to that golf course, I think it's fair to look at what that golf course brings in and divide it back out against the taxpayers to see what's going back to it.
Which is in the negative.
We are higher than that course.
Which is absolutely in the negative, and that's the problem, is that we are absolutely upside down in the operation today. It was a $1.9 million budget last year, plus an additional $300,000 and change for the pump. So now we're looking at what, $2.2 million, and it obtained just over $1 million in revenue.
So
that is absolutely backwards. This is costing every one of our citizens. You take the $1 million upside down that we are and divide that by 17,000. And then figure out what that value is, because that's the real quotient.
So Scott, tell me how you could not see this is not a huge call for change on a major scale, because you're talking about going back and doing the same thing we've done for the last, well, since the turn of the century.
No, what I'm absolutely saying is we have opportunities to fix our revenue versus expense problem today without incurring more headcount cost, more fringe cost, more equipment cost. And then, oh, by the way, we're jumping into a retail business on top of it. and using taxpayer dollar to do those things. The conservative approach to this, from my perspective, is we adjust the fees appropriately, we lower the expense, the annual expense of the golf course, and then you will see an actual trend. Not spikes, not, well, we like it this way, we don't like it that way. The actual business of the course to get down to, here's our revenue, we are appropriately raising fees. We bumped into this in a completely different context with water and wastewater rates this year. There's a cold hard fact that the cost of doing business goes up every year. We've seen that in the expenditure. However, we can rein in a lot of expenditure too. We can appropriately evaluate what revenue opportunities there are within the scope of the operational front of the golf course. I'm still not seeing the balance here of, we have this potential to expend another $650,000-ish on headcount, but we're not putting that approach today. Jeff Rhodes is not sitting in this room, and he's the guy that we've entrusted with that course for nearly a year now. We've had 3 meetings now where the person that is in charge of that thing is not sitting here and given an opportunity to speak. I think I might be the only person to go actually talk to him, because he has these same folders worth of information for every one of us.
I have one.
And there are some things in there that are very promising, right? Without a doubt. The vendor info has been provided. There are most certainly margins to be made in a pro shop, and that is undeniable. The balance is in being fiscally conservative, and do you apply the residential taxpayer dollar to support that opportunity? Because it's not a promise. That is absolutely not a guarantee to make money, especially if we only have a few hundred total headcount in golfers. That's not 17,500. That could be several hundred. And if we increase the numbers, yes, those things are great. However, you are already limited at what potential increase in numbers there could be. Attraction is awesome. A pro will bring attraction. Course upgrades over time will bring attraction. However, we have a revenue problem and we have an expense problem. And we're asking the taxpayers to fund an experiment.
And I want to talk about the principal problem, right? Okay, so on principle, Councilman Sanders, I really admired how you fought and pointed out that the taxpayer was paying hundreds of thousands of dollars of in-kind work into the railroad park, and that we should not be in competition with local businesses. But here on the golf course side of things, the pro shop, we would be in competition with local businesses if we take it over as government ran. So I just want, on a principle point of view, I just want you to, I guess, help me figure that out.
Well, tell me who else is going, tell me where the Golf Galaxy is in Mountain Home. Tell me where the Pro Sports is in Mountain Home.
Are we also kneecapping or?
Walmart stops at golf balls and umbrellas and tees. You want to go get a set of clubs and you want to drive to get there, your nearest drive's 10.5 miles away, where you don't pay tax on it if you buy it there, by the way. There is incentive for you to go someplace else because you don't have it here. Right now, we have very much a niche market because no one else offers what's in that pro shop now, regardless of who's running it.
And that's because right now it's run by private commerce. And that is the threshold, right? There are pieces of equipment and items for sale in there that have not moved in over 24 months. And that's from TJ, who runs that.
In competition with anyone else, which was the councilwoman's question.
Because if we take it over, now we will put ourselves in position where not only are we going to be experiencing limited success, now we're ensuring that the private commerce cannot win.
Same thing then could be applied to golf carts, could it not?
Very much so.
Private vendor comes in and we contract with them and they take on the all aspect and we lose that revenue stream. And now you've got that taken care of.
Which was experienced 2 years ago.
Well, I guess then we also have to get rid of the cart storage sheds because there's storage sheds all in Mountain Home.
Agreed. And there's also liability that the city, we do not carry insurance that covers if a lithium battery explodes and takes out those cart sheds and the carts that we don't own. Like there, again, we have our own problems that we are yet to address.
I guess, and I see your point, Councilman. I think, I think the thing, I don't know, man. It's like there's so if we're being fiscally conservative, there's so many things we could do way different when it comes to the city, and I think we're very, very fiscally conservative. And the golf course is one of those things that's an amenity, right? And it's one of those things that, like, I pay tax for the cemetery. I don't plan to use it, but it's an amenity that when we go to sell a business or when we're recruiting or trying to get a business, you got to have a library. I pay tax on a library that I don't use, which I love the library. They do great work.
And they also have 8,000 people that go through that door every month.
I also pay tax on an airport that I don't use. I mean, there's so many things that we all pay tax on. I think at the end of the day, everything brings each person in the city of value, right? And we don't get to choose we don't get to choose where all our taxes go. But I think at the end of the day, it's a value. The golf course is an amenity. I love the golf course. I want to see it succeed. I understand where everyone wants to be fiscally conservative, but I think in Councilman Sanders' statements that if we continue to do the same things, it's the definition of insanity. Let's try something. Let's rip the Band-Aid off and try something that hasn't been done yet and see where it goes from there. And if it's in 2 years, as Councilman Sanders says, if it doesn't work, we know that it's third-party contractor.
But haven't we already done a city operated when it comes to
last 2 years
operations?
That's why I'm confused. The last 2 years we have.
That's it. This is the hybrid model where
Haven't we done it before?
the hybrid model in 2 contracts back with TJ, right?
I'm saying
that
before 2016, 2012, all of that, before that, didn't we have city operated when it came to full operations and maintenance?
There was a period in about 1994, 96, where there was a time when a city employee ran the pro shop. And again, this goes back to the other common denominator. There was a different management structure back then, different mayor, different city council, and it didn't survive. The process didn't survive. And when I look at the constant since 12,000, we look back to the management. We look back to who's in charge. How is that charge being structured? What kind of organizational discipline is there within the organization to meet its goals? We're doing the same things over and over again that have been done since 1985. The one time it was tried, it lasted less than a year. And it lasted less than a year because the city employee did what many folks have expressed as a fear in casual comments. They did not appear motivated to grow the game. That's a failure on a lot of levels, but probably starting with who they put in there in a job in the first place. Our challenge, whether we contract with a pro or whether we hire one, is trying to find the right person. We're going to be looking for another TJ. And if that's a golden needle in the haystack, that's the task in front of us, whichever way we put them on the payroll, whether by contract or by hiring them as an employee. That's part of management's role in this whole piece as well. And we've got to take that look at ourselves, even as we're taking a look at other mechanisms that are part of this organization we call the golf course.
I don't disagree. The management of headcount and scheduling is very important. And we have not, it's my belief we have not done that appropriately this last year. We have an employee that worked 40 days straight and works from sunup to sundown some days, because here we're proposing a staffing model that comes with a pretty big price tag and a significant increase in headcount at the course, but we're not taking the effort to support the guy that we have there now. That, you're right, that is a drastic change. I don't see how we're looking past, especially this last year. There is potential in taking over the course. There is potential at at a scaled rate down from Lakeview and that example. But how do you explain that to the non-golfer? To potentially 7,000 people or 17,000 people in town. Say you have 500 golfers, great. If you have 17,000 other people in town, how do you explain to them that we're going to continue expending the money that we have in the imbalance that we have, and then we're going to increase that in the hopes that we create a business that works for the city? And this is the part where the hybrid model, where we are not expending for the riskiest parts of that business, but also the things that a golf pro sees as their hustle. I cannot conceive of a way under the circumstance that the city takes over that role and that we're going to stay afloat.
So
I mean, this looks like the trajectory of the actual goal being that we farm this out to a third party overall in the longer term. And I struggle with being able to face any citizen and say, hey, yeah, we spent a few $100,000 additional on the golf course this year, and it's not paying dividends.
So when we say hybrid, it is going to be a different structure of hybrid, though, than what we've had the past 2 years. The past 2 years, it will, in a sense,
And how?
of the structure that we had in executive session.
If you're going to put a pro under contract, you're going to bring him under contract, and you want him to take on the merchandising, then you're going to go right back in the same kind of contract you had with TJ, where you're going to be negotiating what portion the city wants to have of, if any, of lessons, of club fitting, of tournament direction. Otherwise, you're parceling out now pieces and different roles of your operation, and you're going to take the expertise and either have it for that or not, and the enthusiasm to grow that or not, depending upon where you put that piece of the operation under which control, whether it's the pro or whether it's the golf manager that's put there by the city, or whether it's on a Class A pro you hire as a city employee. If you go hybrid, you're going to be divvying up the different funding streams that are there. You've already reserved the carts, you've reserved the green fees. So the amount of wiggle room you've got with a pro winds up being X amount of this, X amount of that, Y amount of the other.
Well,
and
that's
what has
exactly
happened in the last contract is when the city didn't get enough revenue, they went after more of that percentage, and we saw what the end result was, all the machinations that went on in between, but the bottom line was the city took on enough of a role where the pro said, it's not worth it to me anymore. Thank you very much.
I wish, Councilman Sanders, that you could have been present for the 6 hours of conversation that TJ and I had to get to the contract that he was under this last year, and what factors there were specifically that both listening to the golf community and their desire to keep TJ, even if it was just for another year or two. That transition was happening outside of our control well before I ever sat in this seat, well before, and we all know it.
And you probably have assumed, if not already, from the very first time I sat in that chair and got 3 minutes to comment on TJ's renewal of the contract, TJ and I have been in very close communication. Every one of those drafts, he and I went through together.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of those. And when the last turn came around, if truth be told, I flat out asked him when he got the new one. I said, TJ, here's what I see as an issue, contract-wise, strictly structured. Can you survive on this? And a remark from him was, and I don't mean to quote him, but I'm not quoting. I'll simply say that he admitted he could get by on it until something else came up.
Which, in my conversation with him, was absolutely the intent.
So
to keep him here to service the golf community while providing him enough to get by here while he was transitioning out, because he had already supplied his resignation.
But I also tell you, when TJ first got here and he and I sat down and talked, he showed me his 7-year plan for getting the golf carts. We're growing the gameplay. We're doing all the things we're going to need the new pro to do, regardless of how we get them. But he came in with a career plan to stay here in Mountain Home. And so someone comes in with that kind of plan and is experiencing the kind of success someone like him had in doing that job, I would say he was on track. It would take something pretty major over time, perhaps, to derail that. And somehow the city managed to do it.
So with that being said, I guess I'm kind of asking, I had previously said, what about a request for proposal when it comes to either contracting out or a hybrid? I'm sitting here thinking, if you put out a request for a proposal, you're potentially having a contractor, whatever that capacity is, that's going to come with a business plan, and we can actually look at that and see, here's a 7-year plan, or, you know, we don't increase green fees such as like Twin Falls had done previously, and that. I guess I'm curious, is there any appetite from this body to kind of get a whole perspective? Yet it sounds like we're having, you know, meetings with other municipalities that are city operated, but why aren't we even kind of entertaining the idea of requests for proposals like City of Burley did? They put one out a couple years ago, and they had a request for a couple bids come in, and they decided not to. They kept city operations. Twin Falls did a whole contract operations for it, and they're up and running. Lewiston did one. They even had an emergency like 6-month contract for a golf pro operator. I mean, I can keep going through and saying, I don't understand why we're not looking at all options and, quite frankly, reaching out to the golf community and saying, what can we be doing? Because I don't agree with the merchandise and using taxpayer money, but I also see the fact that you can't increase your fees constantly out of the problem when you have golf members who, quite frankly, aren't happy with the service they're getting. So I don't see how we can increase green fees and keep increasing all this to hopefully gain revenue when we're seeing numbers go down for rounds of golf. And I don't see how we can get city into it. I mean, I'm looking at this True Club Solution, you know, report, and the biggest thing that I've seen point out with city operated is it talks about, one of the biggest things, tax and benefits as a percentage of salaries and wages when it comes to city related expenses, approximately double that which would be seen in a third party management operation. So I guess I'm trying to ask is this body opening to getting a whole perspective, getting the golf advisory committee actually up and running, and engage with the public and getting this public input instead of just trying to ram through home a city operated or a contract or anything of that nature.
Mayor, have you put out advertisements for the golf course committee?
Already got it done right now.
Okay. I mean, have people applied then?
Yeah. I wouldn't say they applied. They were asked.
Fallen ass.
And they said yes. So it's ready to rock and roll.
When's the first meeting?
I think your first meeting is the 14th.
Wouldn't the first meeting be to have the membership confirmed
14th.
by the council?
That's exactly, yeah. So 14th.
14th. And our
And our pro leaves the 20th.
pro leaves the 20th.
I guess I'll have to say I understand the pros leaving the 20th, but I don't want to rush into something and cause another problem. I think this needs to be done well thought out, meticulously, getting public input and the buy-in to this to move forward with what I'm seeing as a 5, 10, even 20-year plan.
And I 100% agree with you. Like, I want to, I've already said this, and I didn't think I had the support of it. I want to fully contract it out, but I didn't think I had that from the council, and I don't think I have it from the community. So I want to hear it from the golf course committee that I asked for. So I know you can't speak, but yes, I want to hear from the golf course committee who speaks to the golf course community, right? Because I'm not a golfer. So why would I make a decision on something that I'm of assumptions? So yes, we need to hear from the golf course committee that speaks to the golf course community what they want. Because I mean, I've been seeing a whole bunch of heads going everywhere and side comments from the audience we have here, and I want to hear what you have to say, right? Unfortunately, I only had Becky reach out to me on this thing, right? So that's crazy to me. Okay. So yes, let's I don't want to take an action on this then tonight or today, really. I know I feel like we should. I mean, because we're getting into the season, but I'm so sorry, Deborah or Councilman Sanders. I can't go for the city employee pro either. So I appreciate your efforts on it and your passion for it and everything, but I cannot. So hybrid or fully contracted out, I would like to hear from the committee. That's where I stand. And let's not dismiss your survey, right? Who gave you the idea for that survey? A golfer?
No. Well, yes.
Okay, see, right? The golf community wants us to reach out to them, right? All right, so.
I fundamentally, I didn't get it until Wednesday night, and it's like, hey, try to get this to everybody. We have 170 people that filled out. Guarantee you 1,000 golfers out here that would have filled it out if we would have had time, done it correctly.
So Alex, really quick. So to everybody here, obviously it's, it looks like it's going to be tabled. I'm not going to speak for the council, but it sounds like they want to hear from a golf advisory board. I'm going to have that on the next city council agenda, which is the 14th, for them to vote on said people. I'm assuming, I'm going to say this, I'm assuming they're going to approve it since you're all golfers. And then I hope to have a meeting with you guys probably the next day or whatnot. Yes, ma'am.
And I don't mean slight to any of this, but I think it's unfair to assume that you're going to appoint a golf committee on April 14th, and within just several weeks later, they're going to recommend how the golf course proceeds as a volunteer group.
We didn't say that. We're putting a set date to it.
Yeah, like don't. Like,
No.
They have to be up to speed too.
There was no set date to
Okay,
it.
all right. I'm just making sure because
I know.
I
'cause
wouldn't
we're
want to
pushing
be.
the-
I wouldn't be part of your committee if you were going to
We-
make me do that.
No,
so.
no, we're pushing the count down the road, unfortunately, right? We don't want to do that, but I mean, we need to take the citizens input. So.
So here moving forward, I guess everyone has their own facets of how they want to see it. Golf course go into the future. Council, you're the body, so you guys get to choose where it goes. So with that, anything else?
Mr. Mayor,
Oh,
that is an action item, so I'm going to move the item be tabled until the next council meeting.
Second.
it's been motioned and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. Councilman Sanders?
Aye.
Councilman McCarthy?
Aye.
Councilwoman Workala?
Aye.
Councilman Harjo?
Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned.